Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's talk a little bit about what happened yesterday as the Super Tuesday results came out. We're going to talk about Super Tuesday and a whole lot more happening in the world of politics. Also, President Biden is scheduled to address the country tomorrow night for his third State of the Union address. We'll talk about the details of that, and more importantly, will you listen? Later on, folks, let's talk about Miami Beach's spring breakup with spring breakers. Yeah, I'm gonna share with you the commercial that they put out there and the warning that they have given. But some people saying that this might be racism at the root of it. We'll have that conversation. So stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. And we are streaming live right now on a number of platforms. First and foremost, check us out on our home platform of blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media at Black Star Network. And we ask that you put something in a bucket for us, as we want you to be investors and stakeholders in this digital movement that we're in. So go to our website today and show your support. And we cannot thank you enough for tuning in, for your support, and for your donations. Now, we're also streaming live on Amazon platforms, on Amazon News, on your Fire TV. You can also check us out on Amazon Prime Video, where you can find us on the Prime Video app. Just go to Prime Video app under Live TV, the news, or find us on Amazon.com under Prime Video, then Live TV, the news. And we're also on the Freevee network, where you can find us there on now under news. So you can just check us out there on the Freevee network, on the Black Star Network. And we're on Plex TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just search for Black Star Network. We'll find us under Live TV, the news and opinion on Plex TV. Now, we're also streaming on Big Brother Roland Martin's, our curator and founder, on his social media pages. Check us out on Big Brother Roland's Facebook page, as well as his YouTube channel. And you can find us there. Now, while we're on there, you can also check us out as our illustrious culture crew. They're everywhere. They're on the X platform. They're on the Facebook, and of course, we got folks that are gathered in the YouTube chat. And folks, I'm so happy. That's right. I'm so happy to see all of the new faces, new voices. I would love to hear what folks got to say as we have these conversations. So I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. Now, it's Wednesday, and it's time for me to have this conversation with none other than the dynamic the dynamic lawyer out of the great state of Florida. She's making some moves. She's making some noise. And she's always bringing the funk right here.
I like that.
On the culture, my sister Suzette speaks. Suzette, good afternoon.
Hey.
How are you?
Here. I'm fantastic. I'm a little nasally, caught a little bug, but we push it through, and it's always a pleasure. Can't wait to get into today's conversation.
There we go. All right, Suzette, let's start talking about Super Tuesday. First and foremost, most of the general results around Super Tuesday shows something I think that is pretty much we kind of expected. We saw President Biden doing really well in a bunch of different states. President Trump considered he's getting what some may call a Super Tuesday sweep against former presidential candidate Nikki Haley, who dropped out of the race and said that she is going to drop out of the race, but will not endorse Trump. So that's going to be an interesting storyline moving forward. And she's hoping that Trump does his best to try to win her and her supporters over. Here's another thing that people did not know. This is interesting. President Biden said, you ran a courageous race. It's good to run, it's difficult to run a presidential race during this Republican Party. If you want, you can bring your supporters over here, and there's a place for them. I'm not making this up, folks. President Biden has put out the invitation that Nikki Haley can show some love and bring her supporters over there. What do you make of all of this?
There's so many moving parts for y'all who keep saying Uncle Joe is not on top of his game. Listen, he is throwing it out there to let the people know that are feeling homeless, really the voters who are feeling homeless, that they don't have a home. And there was a lot of reactions in terms of exit polls and who was really at these polls. But Super Tuesday was the lion's share of delegates. So how do we pick presidents? And then there were two. Now we are really down to two people, as we thought there would be, former President Trump and President Biden. Now, to get to the nomination of each party, you have to win the various states. And as you win each state, there are rules around collecting delegates. And to get to the convention in July on the Republican side, you need about, I think it's 1,200 plus delegates, and you will lock down that party's nomination. After Super Tuesday, where 16 states and a territory voted, former President Trump is now at 1,057 delegates. Nikki Haley had 2 wins. We saw her win in Washington, D.C. a few days ago, and then she did take home Vermont during Super Tuesday, but it just wasn't enough. I will say that there are significant pockets to what you just spoke about of her supporters that were present in several different states. What does that mean? That even though Mr. Trump did gain the majority of the delegates, oftentimes you saw in states like Virginia, 30 to 35%, a third of the Republicans who came out during the primaries did not vote for him. So President Biden is speaking to what some surmise are just Republicans who are not Trump, nothing but Trump, don't want him, somebody else, please. You have independents that registered in some of these closed primaries where you have to pick a party in order to vote, and registered as a Republican just so they could vote for Nikki Haley. And then some speculate that some of those folks were Democrats who switched their party affiliation to vote for, again, the non-Trump candidate, former Ambassador Haley. So you have this group of folks, and again, 30% is a significant amount. In several different states, you saw that Mr. Trump did not get among that hardcore primary voting base. So where do they go? Do they stick with him? Do they hold their nose and say, you know what, we think he might be volatile. We don't like his policy positions. And I know we'll get into it, because the biggest thing that I think is missing is that people are more, or some folks, especially on the Republican side, are more in love with that cult of personality. And again, we have to be more than one person and one issue voters. We have to look at what does that cult of personality bring to the table as the possible leader, yet again, of this country. This is the first time in quite a few decades that we are going to most likely see, again, unless something crazy happens, two folks that ran against each other back again, right? Dwight D. Eisenhower, I think that was his race with Adlai Stevenson. And when it happened before in that race where the candidates went against each other one presidential cycle, and then again, Dwight D. Eisenhower won by a small majority. And then the second time, an even greater majority. So this hasn't been seen in some time, but there are a lot of voters, again, a significant amount of that Republican base that did not vote for Mr. Trump. So where do they go? That is a key question. And President Biden is not afraid to try to woo them over to say, look at my policies, look at my accomplishments. I'm your guy.
Very, very interesting. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue to talk about Super Tuesday and so much more. I want you to join us in the chat. We got a lot of new watchers, so welcome to all of the new watchers in the chat. If you want us to share what your thoughts are about yesterday's election, we would love to hear from you. Make sure you post your comments in the YouTube chat or on the Facebook chat, and we would love to get to hear what you have to say about yesterday. So stay with us. We got a whole lot to cover in this first half here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds. as an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol. We've seen shootings.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation as I'm joined by my sister and one of our great contributors here on The Culture and on the Black Star Network, my sister, Suzette Speaks, who is a licensed attorney out of the state of Florida. She's the host of the Suzette Speaks Show, and she's also can be seen and heard here on The Culture, as well as Roland Martin Unfiltered here on the Black Star Network. Suzette, you were breaking down just a little bit of the data and some of the numbers around what we saw yesterday. Do you get a sense that, and I haven't come across anything just yet, but did you get a sense that voter engagement, voter turnout, was it high, low in some of the places where there's some unexpected voter turnout? What did you see across the country?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, this, as we've talked about before on our show here, the Trump base is definitely enthused and they are engaged. So again, when anybody is trying to tell us within our community, you know, there's nothing to vote for, we shouldn't be voting, please believe there are folks that are highly motivated, and they will be making the decision for the rest of us if we decide not to fully engage. So as far as that base is very much motivated to come out for Mr. Trump and to see that their agenda is met. When we look at some of the other local races around the country, what happened in North Carolina with the election of the primary candidate for governor, Mr. Mark Robinson. He was a Trump-backed Black man who served as the first Black lieutenant governor of North Carolina. He, in his acceptance speech of the presumptive nomination for governor, I mean, there was fire in that room and there was fire in his belly. When I read his story, and again, many would characterize his platform as being a little bit more right wing, a little bit more out of the mainstream. You know, he's not a centrist candidate at all. But in certain states, there are diehard Trump or no one else folks. So with the numbers that have come out thus far in these 16 states, I think there's a resounding coalescing going on. Now that we know at this stage, it's about winning the delegates to get to the nomination. So there's something that happens in politics that usually when it is a clear winner, as we saw with Nikki Haley this morning, you know, her giving her concession speech that she's bowing out of the race, you know, there is a circling of the wagon. What does that mean? That people of you know, probably differences before say it's the best thing for the party. And it seems as if, you know, the people have spoken. As you talked about on the show yesterday, I was deep in the chat yesterday talking about the Supreme Court's decision. And now that Mr. Trump will be, and there's so much I wanted to say on that. I was like, well, I wish we had saved that for today too. But the decision that was made and why it was made, I know we don't have to rehash it. Y'all watch yesterday's show. It was a great discussion. But I would like to plug, if I would, and I know it's not on this platform.
No, go ahead.
But I was watching Karen Hunter's show last night with a gentleman who has written about the 14th Amendment. And he was going deep, and I forget the author's name. I probably should have had it ready, but I just came to mind as we're getting into today's discussion. But he was talking about how after the Civil War, after the 14th Amendment was adopted and all the other, you know, amendments for the protection of Black people, after what was won and hopefully fought for, which was equality, including us into this great American experiment, there was a discussion being made right before Abraham Lincoln was assassinated with those who were in the camp of the North talking about what to do with the former Confederates. And under that same Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, there was discussion about why or why not people who fought for the Confederacy and who were gung-ho about maintaining that social order, why they should not be allowed to run. And then there were people in the camp of Mr. Lincoln who were advising, you know what, we should allow them, which eventually did happen, back in government, right? They didn't follow the very letter of the law that was written and added by our Congress into the Constitution. And how, by comparison, he was talking about how we're doing the same thing yet again, a couple hundred years later. And what the results were then was that deep Jim Crow Black Code South, when people who were, again, standing on the wrong side of the Constitution were given a free pass, basically, and the words of the Constitution were not adhered to. And what we saw with the judgment yesterday or Monday, and it had to be, because I don't say, from my perspective, I don't see how they couldn't come to that conclusion 9-0, because I could see it being played in the opposite direction against Democrats in 10, 20 years. So can any party really do something like this, even though there might be constitutional backing for why, in this case, that the behavior displayed by the candidate in question actually did meet the criteria of the Constitution? It was just a very good discussion that I know it is neither here nor there now, because Mr. Trump will be on all ballots across the country as a matter of law. But yeah, so we pick and choose. And our Supreme Court seems to pick and choose when they want to have a strict constructional, what they call historical view of what the founders meant by writing that beautiful document called the Constitution, and when they believe it's a real and living and evolving document that has real life scenarios that, you know, the implications of which they are trying to govern for. It's very interesting that all of a sudden it's a live and breathing document that they have to make sure protects the system of government that we have, as opposed to reading it historically, like has been the general conservative view on many rulings that we've seen in this court's term. So yeah, it was a very interesting show. Please, I really wish I had the reference to the author's name.
It's a Clay King.
I don't want to get it wrong, but yeah, he wrote a wonderful comparative piece about the 14th Amendment, why it was written historically, how again, Lincoln, before he passed, was really being pressured and was considering how to bring folks back into the fold without penalty. And then when he passed, that is what happened with the election of several presidents and governors, and what they brought with them, that same energy that they had in the Civil War, they brought with them in those offices. And it,
and let me just throw this out there. I'm sorry,
really,
go ahead, Suzanne.
No, sorry, please.
No. I was just want to throw this out there, and I know we got to take another quick pause, and I'm glad that you brought this up, just because any thoughts that you have, and I mean, anything that comes up with the courts and stuff, I always think about you first. I'll be like, I got to talk to Suzette about this, right? But so just for the timing of things, but I want to hear what you have to say about that court ruling, because yesterday we talked to Sister Elizabeth Horton, a chef out of Hartford, Connecticut, but she is a former city council person. She's a social justice activist. But to hear what you have to say as well would be fantastic. So you can intertwine that throughout all these conversations today. But I do think that it is interesting that we do have this conversation, but with the disheartening part about this is that I don't think that people care about the historical implication, the historical reference, nor do they care about, and I'm talking about the Supreme Court. I mean, some of the American people, some Americans, I think, really do care. But I think that the Supreme Court, I think it's just there's so much party politics, and it's just so partisan that, yes, I kind of understand why the Supreme Court made that ruling, because I read that, and I don't remember which justice said it, but you don't want to create a precedent for state-to-state patchwork. That's the terminology they use. You don't want it to be patchwork.
It's so cool.
And that's the thing. Exactly.
Right. I know we got to go to a break.
We got to go to a break, but that's
understand that as Black people, our civil rights, that word civil rights is overused. Our full integration into American society came by way of the courts. What happened is the state courts were imbalanced and were ultra partial to making decisions that were exclusive of Black people. And we were able, through the federal government, the federal courts, gain the equality and the freedoms we deserve. But now what has happened is there's been a reformation of the courts to where now our conservative brothers and sisters, or those extremists in that movement, has seen that they're going to reform the courts. You will not have any type of reprieve up there anymore on the Supreme Court. We're going to control that too. So whatever happens in the state court, we got. Whatever happens on the Supreme Court, we got. We can't be disillusioned with the courts. We need Black people to run for judges. We need people on the prosecutorial side, on the defense side. We need to be fully involved, because that's how we achieved freedom in the first place, was using the very Constitution and the very judicial system that was impartial and very, what can I say, evolved with the viewpoints that went from Plessy v. Ferguson, separate but equal, to where we actually got what was to be fulfilled by the words of the Constitution. So we got to look at the courts. We got to have, for example, Ron DeSantis appointed 4 new judges in Florida this week. None of them are Black. It seems like the only way Black people get into the bench, into the system, is to run, spend their money and run. So we can't turn our backs and say, oh, this is too much and this is too partisan. This is what allowed us the advancements that we've had over the last 50 or 60 years. And if we are not paying attention and we are asleep while they realize, oh, we're not going to have this anymore, we're going to stack the courts. We're going to make sure our like-minded justices are the folks that we're promoting, and we're moving up the ladder towards the Supreme Court. We're not, it is such a dangerous kind of trend that we have to wake people up to it, because that's why these elections are so consequential. The courts have to have a balance of thought. And I think, again, we talked about Mr. Biden appointing more Black women, more people of color, almost a third of everybody he appointed already to permanent life or life, I would say life sentences,
lifetime appointments. Yeah.
Important.
I get it.
We gotta have leaders that see our thought. I gotta go. I know we gotta take a break.
We gotta take a quick pause. Brian Christian, you checked in and said, "Wow, so they want criminals who don't take accountability for their actions to stay running buck wild and just hope for the best. That's crazy." Y'all hearing Suzette? Y'all heard me yesterday. We got to take a break. Let's continue to talk about it. Talking about Super Tuesday results and more. Stay with us. Join us in the conversation right now, streaming live on Big Brother Roland Martin's YouTube channel and on his Facebook page. We would love to hear from what you have to say, folks. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, Dave.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sister, Suzette Speaks. host of the Suzette Speak Show, political strategist and contributor here on the Black Star Network, as we talk about Super Tuesday results and so much more. And again, as we had this conversation about all things politics, we certainly can't think, right there in the background, as Suzette has so eloquently put out there, you got this Supreme Court decision that has been a looming presence over this election run, this presidential campaign, this presidential election. And now that the path is clearer for former President Donald Trump to possibly go back into the big seat, many are wondering about the future of this country. And I think it's a justified sentiment, Suzette, considering the fact that there are so many things in place. And I think your piece around the importance of the courts, and I know that I want to just touch on a couple of the states, but we can't just kind of gloss over the fact that the court system, and I said this yesterday, is where a lot of Black folks have often got that sense of justice. And now, if state courts are stacked, if the Supreme Court is stacked for for the conservative view, where do Black folks go? What is our recourse? Because as I said to our sister Elizabeth Horton-Sheff yesterday, for many years, we have gotten into the trend of filing lawsuits. You got the Legal Defense Fund for the NAACP, for the Urban League, and all of these other civil rights organizations. We filed lawsuits and all of these things. Those tactics are slowly being thwarted each and every day when you hear about more conservative judges or more states' rights being, repealed. And so I'm asking a big question: what is the recourse? Where can Black folks go to get a sense of justice in this country if it's not from the Supreme Court or from the state court?
Again, we will beat this with a stick and 2 times on Sunday when it comes to why we were able to make progress when Black men first received the right to vote or fought for the right to vote, and the changes that allowed even in the South right after the Civil War. We had more Black statewide elected Black senators and in the houses of each state. The Florida House, I'm thinking about who was elected during those 1800s, 1880s, 1890s, 1910s. Yeah. We had Black U.S. senators when Black people were fully franchised, when we were allowed to go to the ballot box without counting beans, without counting bubbles, without asking crazy, math questions, because they understood the power of the ballot. What has happened then is being repeated. If we can beat you on the issues, we are going to make laws such that more and more of you either don't realize the changes have occurred or are purposefully, getting harder to access. Right? I want you to have more IDs when you show up. I want to take away Souls to the Polls Sunday. Why extend early voting? No, we don't want to do that. In Florida, they were considering during this session that if you wanted a at-home ballot, vote by mail or absentee, whichever you want to call it, that you would have to have a real reason to apply for one. Not just anybody could get one. Now you have to show medical proof or all this other stuff. Why are they doing that? Because if they don't have the numbers based on the issues that they're proffering, the issues and the policies that they're putting forth, the way that they continue to amass power, even though their ideas are not being touted by the majority of the American people, is to outvote them. They are never going to stop going to the ballot. They are never going to stop marching when there's a primary, when there's a general. They know when the elections are, y'all. Because they know that the winner, the person that gets the most votes, is the person in control of policy going forward for whatever that term is. So we have to be very careful, right? And clue into, wow, if they're taking over the judiciary in this type of way, and they know that's where we have had the most progress in terms of civil rights, equal rights for Blacks and everyone else, because every time we add to the rights and the equality of the American experiment, to this beautiful tapestry that we're calling, everybody gets treated the same, one law for every human being, you are able to live up to your full potential without, hindrance based on, discrimination or any other partialness, where people in other countries have to belong to a certain party, have to always say yes to the leader that they have. There's so many different forms of government, and ours has allowed access to the very richest as well as the poorest by the ballot. But this whole psychological propaganda, oh, ain't nobody worth voting for, ain't nobody gonna come to your aid, there's nothing you could change by going to that ballot box, why don't you just stay home? That is the psychological, to me, terrorism that is going to backfire in our face. Because while we do that, that is not a protest, because the person who has the most votes is still going to win and control the policy and direct your life, direct my life, tell us who can go to the doctor for what reason and not for other reasons. You think IVF is not on the table? It is the biggest, what can I call it, the bait and switch I've ever seen. You're the people that voted for my Republican brothers taking away a woman's choice, and then now that it's affecting middle class, especially white women who could afford IVF. Oh my gosh, how could this happen? We have to protect this. You're the one that took it off the table in the first place with the justices that you appointed. So we cannot be bait and switched and close our eyes and say it's politics as usual. There's nothing we can do. We have numbers. We can make sure there are elected people who reflect our values. That's why when we get to the State of the Union and talking about what Mr. Biden is going to propose, we have to, I think as Americans, decide whether we want substance or whether we want style. And I think it is a reflection back on us as to what we're keyed into. We want the swag. We want this. But someone here in this race, now that it's coming down to two people, has the proven track record. So what do you want? Do you want us to stand on this side of whether it's women's rights and other, economics? When we look at it, I tell people all the time, I know how I feel when I go to the grocery store. Housing prices and grocery prices, even though inflation in 2022 was at 9.9%, it's been brought down to under 3% now. People are still feeling that squeeze. But if we're talking about policy, we're talking about decreasing the credit card fees. This man is a workhorse. President Biden has been delivering. If you want to look at parts of your life that you don't even know, 4 million people loans got forgiven. And we're not talking about actual wins. We're talking about stylistics. And again, I know being an inspiration and a motivator is important for any leader, right? But when you have the proven track record, you have to weigh for yourself. If I stay home, if I'm not doing my part in either contributing money, supporting a local candidate, fine. You're not all up into the national. The local is what matters. There are primaries happening all around us right now. And we are a system that feeds from the bottom and people move up the ladder to higher office and higher office. If we're not in a fully engaged mode, looking around at if they can't win on the issues, they're going to make sure they stay fully engaged at the ballot box. And if we are not matching energy for energy, we're going to end up with the short end of the stick.
Hey, look, Suzette, look, let me just say that you're absolutely right. I came across this and I put this on my social media today on my Instagram. The White House had announced that just something very small that many people, this story was all the way at the bottom. You're talking about those kitchen table politics. That's what it's called, kitchen table politics, when you're talking about stuff that affects us directly. President Biden and his administration were able to put a cap on credit card fees from $32 now down to $8, saving Americans $10 billion a year. Now, some of you might not think that's impressive, but if you think about how much debt that we hold to credit card companies, it's a lot of money. $32 to $8. That means that credit cards won't be able to charge you more than $8. And according to the White House, if they do charge you some exorbitant late fee or credit card fee, they have to explain in writing why.
You remember when overdraft was 35? You remember?
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Y'all never been hit with a 35. Am I the only one? Now no. Like this stuff makes a big difference.
This makes a huge difference. Now I will look. It's kitchen table politics. So you're talking about stuff like that, and again, he's also in the same announcement. He also said he's putting together a task force, and this is part of his campaign promise. And I thought this was pretty interesting. He's putting together a task force to look at gas, food, and other consumer good prices to see if they can put a cap on that as well.
There's only so much, like I said, we don't understand the system versus the economy. But of course, the person that sits in the White House gets the blame or gets the credit. So he's doing as much as he can.
So
with the
you know, I mean, look. We can go back and forth, and I understand the politics. Trust me, I understand because I'm listening, I'm hearing, and I'm processing all of it. So you know, I understand the politics, but we do have to look at, okay, in the long run, we got to look at what the vision is. What is the ultimate goal here? And I think that is one of the things that, you know, even when I had this conversation yesterday with my sister, Noemi Lawan Perez, and she was like, you could stand on one issue. And Suzette, you've said this as well. You can stand on one issue, but that one issue is not the complete picture of one's presidency or one's times in public service. And I agree with that. You know what I mean? We as Black folks, we have so many challenges, and it's like that old saying, you got to pick your battles, right? You got to figure out which battles are that you want to wage to possibly turn into a war, or which battle you're going to say, you know what? You got that. Let's move on to something else. So we're going to have to
10% of the agenda that you don't agree with. Is it worth throwing the other 90% down the drain for someone who is 100% on the opposite side of the agenda that would benefit you and your community? That's really the question we have to ask ourselves.
Absolutely. K-Dog 88, you said, how many Black poor people have a credit card? How does it help them? A lot.
I was about to say, don't you're gonna be able to get
a lot. K-Dog 88, a lot. Black people have a lot of credit cards. And quote unquote low income poor people have a lot of credit. The reason that they
I'm not sure if I agree with, but I hear what you're saying. I think it impacts them in a positive way, actually.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Look, we got to take another quick pause. When we come back, let's continue the conversation on the other side. Plus, let's talk about the president's upcoming State of the Union address, his third address to the country. What can we expect from this president? Where some folks are saying that this is an address where the president's going to have to compete with the various demands that has put upon him. And this is also the same address that many people say this is a make or break speech for President Biden to ensure that he can carry on for another 4 years. A lot to take in. We'll have that conversation and continue to talk about Super Tuesday and so much more. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
It's an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. And we are in the second half of the show. Had a very, very informative first half as we talk a little bit about the Super Tuesday results. And we're going to continue that conversation in just a moment. But we do want to let you know that we are streaming right now on a number of different platforms. So go to our website, our home platform of blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media. And we ask for your donations. As you heard Big Brother Roland Martin say, your donation makes a world of difference. It means it means so much to us to get your financial support as we're putting out news and content and information that is specifically tailored for Black America as we go through this process of understanding all that's happening within the country and around the world. So your support makes a world of difference. So go to our website today and you can donate safely and right there on our website. So, and thank you for your support. Now, we're also streaming on Amazon News platforms. You can find us on the Amazon News on your Fire TV. We're also on Prime Video app. So check us out on the Prime Video app under Live TV The News, or find us on Amazon.com under Prime Video, then Live TV The News. We're also on the Freevee network, and you can find us under On Now for news for Freevee, under for Black Star Network, as well as Plex TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just search for Black Star Network. We'll find us under Live TV The News and Opinion. Now, we're also streaming live on Big Brother Roland Martin's social media pages, so you can find us on his Facebook page, as well as on his YouTube channel. And that's where you'll also be able to find the illustrious Culture Crew. Folks are checking in from around the country and some parts of the world, taking a look at and being a part of the conversation. And folks, I implore you to do the same. So just jump right into the chat. Welcome yourself to the chat, and we would love to hear what you got to say as we have these conversations. And I'm checked in with, and I'm locked in with my sister, Suzette Speaks, who's host of the Suzette Speaks show on YouTube. She's also a political strategist. She's a licensed attorney out of the state of Florida, and she's a regular contributor here on The Culture, as well as Roland Martin Unfiltered here on the Black Star Network. Suzette, I want to make sure that we do cover those races, because I think there's some couple of key things that we should look at. North Carolina, we saw Mr. Robinson, who is, as a Black man, he's gotten the support of Trump. We talked a little bit about the implications of that. That relationship could sour any day, depending on the situation. But he's primed. He's moving on to the general election. And so
he's the first Black governor of that state. I mean, again, policy. And I think I'm seeing some trolls in the chat talking about, white versus Black and things like that. We're here talking about policy and we're here talking about issues. I think that's one of the smoke and mirror tactics of, the extremists in our parties that we're seeing right now, is that it's trying to divide us basically to seem as all people of one race or one way and should support one candidate or have feelings towards another candidate, the one Mr. Trump, because of racial bias. It's not. When we're looking at principles and policies, we're asking ourselves, who do we think will grant full access to the American dream the way the Constitution intended, right? Without any discriminatory or any type of implicit bias added in the court system, added in all, aspects of our government, with how policy will be laid out by that leader's vision. That's what we're asking ourselves. Who is providing a more, complete vision? And like we said, there's so many issues to be dealt with. Who is competent? Who has, the experience and an actual blueprint, right? We just discussed a couple of weeks ago that there is no platform meaning like the list of issues that the party says it stands for. There's no Republican platform. The platform committee was disbanded. So when we're talking about who we're entrusting the future of the country with, right, both in foreign policy, domestic policy, economics, and other social issues, it is not about color. It is not about race. It is about people who have, the concrete results that are there proven to see where it is that they want to take the vision of our country. And then the behavior of, other candidates show us where they want to take us. So
and let me just throw something else in the mix too.
That has nothing to do. Like, I really don't want anybody to minimize Black folks as if we are only, I know you're tired of me saying it, a one issue vote or all of us thinking one way. We're looking at the future of the country and we're trying to make an educated guess as to who we can trust with our issues specifically, but with those of the country at large. So if we're asking ourselves, how much does it matter to us that A or B or C or D issue is being handled in this way, depending on what the candidates have shown us is their priority on that issue? That's what we're going by. It's good to have an open discourse when it comes to the realities of what may or may not happen if we choose one person or choose the other or not choose to vote at all. That's what this platform is about. So be very careful when you're seeing these trolls. I'm seeing them in the chat and I just felt like I had to respond.
No, that's all good. It's all good. Hey, look,
that's not what we're doing here.
No. And I think that this is the other part. I think that if we were to get more mature in our citizenship, in our citizenry rather, the more mature citizen is, and I mean in 2024, that today's empowered citizen understands that government cannot do it all by itself. The empowered citizen understands that, you know what, we've been down this road, and this is where you got to ask yourself, do you want to be a citizen that is expecting to wait and hope and pray and wish upon a star that the government provides all of these services so that the quality of your life is safe and sound and secure? Or do you want to be a citizen where you are in partnership with the government? And that's a different place. That's a different relationship. That's a different relationship because unfortunately, and this is just my view on it, I think we've been conditioned in this country to not put in no work outside of voting here, maybe advocating there, but we don't want to be truly engaged. We don't want to think about this stuff. And I understand it because government can be tedious. It can be mundane in some cases. And I understand it. But you should know there's no way in the world that in 2024, moving forward, that we should have an electorate that is ill-informed or an electorate that's lazy.
And doesn't understand that we're the people that put them there and we must hold them accountable.
And that's what I'm saying. Come on.
It's not about when you find that issue, for example, your local school board, we need help. We need folks to run, like-minded folks to run for these local offices because our Republican brothers and sisters are saying the same thing. Politics is local. And if we start at the grassroots, they're electing people who have their very same
but we don't want to
issue mindedness when it comes to looking at your kid's school, looking at where your neighborhood school is. How this is our tax dollars that we're talking about. So how are they being distributed? Are you satisfied with the service that you're getting for your tax money? And if you're not, you, like Farajii says, this is not a like sit back. You might not be able to go to the school board meeting, but you can send an email. You can, set up a one-on-one. You could go down to the school and volunteer for 2 hours. It is a dance. Like, we make our democracy happen. I agree with you fully that these local officials and all the electeds that we're talking about, whether on the state level or the city level, municipal level, right up to the national, right, the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House, and of course the presidency. It is us, the people, that holds them to account and make sure they are going to follow through with what they've either promised or what their policy should be based on our needs. So this is definitely not a hand it over. And I do think we've maybe gotten a little complacent. I wouldn't say a majority, but we feel like, all right, I'm going to them. Now I can sit back where my stuff at. No, absolutely not.
And
because
black folks,
what incentive do they have to follow through? The knock on the door, the hi, I'm still here. Hi, I'm your constituent. And I didn't see any change in X, Y, or Z. And if you don't change, we're not giving money. We're not voting, and I'm going to support your opponent. Our Republican brothers and sisters do not hesitate to say, we're going to run somebody against you. How about that? Wake up and listen. Like, we have to have that in our political ethos as a culture. Like, but I think, again, there is something that I don't know if we can prove that it is being orchestrated, but this little now growing seed of continuous, trying to get us to move to an apathetic mindset. Throw your hands up. The system is broken. Throw your hands up. You can. We'll right. That is the danger. That is the poison that is being used against us. That is, they know the power is in the showing up. They know the power is in the, not only at the ballot, but thereafter, like the engagement after. That's the power. Come see me. Come talk about me. Come shake my hand and let me know how you really feel. That's what politicians pay attention to. And I do think, again, the culture, zeitgeist, the change in like, oh, we don't trust politicians and, politicians are slimy or whatever that they're throwing out there, so that there's a certain group of, I would say, political, maybe novices, people who are not into politics deeply, that are just on the fringe, that are getting these messages, this vibration, this, okay, I'm supposed to take my cue from this influencer, from this former, entertainer or former athlete. So, if they think, we shouldn't really care, maybe I shouldn't care. We have to be so careful. And then the folks who are informed, like your viewers here, our viewers here, have to be the ones that reinform, right? I tell people all the time, you are the government too, right? You are the educator too. You have your sphere of influence too. Do not wait on that elected official. If we have a vote by mail issue in Florida because they wiped everybody off the vote by mail, right? And now you got to re-sign up. If you haven't voted in 2 elections, you're on the inactive list. And that affects mostly Black people. And they knew it when they wrote the law and Ron DeSantis passed it. It's up to me and you who know the difference to tell mama them, cousin them, church friends them. Everybody has to know. That's what I'm saying. The democracy is it is a dance. It is going on. And again, it can feel overwhelming. But once you find, that niche that speaks to you, and you find that elected official that's connected to it, you got to get your hands involved. Mama them, they went to the PTA meetings. They went to the school board meetings. They advocated. It is our turn now. There's been a generational shift, but we are those folks now that have to hold them to account.
All right, we got to take another quick pause. Let me just throw in there a couple of things. My sister is on fire today, and I'm loving it. Here, Cindy D said, it's out of hand. People who don't even have kids and one person who complains are changing the schools. You are so right, Suzette Speaks. Absolutely. Brian Christian, you say great power comes with great responsibility. I think we don't want the responsibility since it's too much work, but we all have the power to change things, which requires us to do the work. Absolutely. That's a great way of looking at it, Brian. Thank you so much, bro, for putting that out there. Tiana, you said people got to understand this ain't no damn personality contest. We voting for people who can get stuff done. Absolutely.
Say it louder for the people in the back, Tiana. Say it louder. They want a shiny show. They want the shiny show, but the shiny show,
look, you can't get it. Oh, man. Come on. Sandy W., you said you are not getting any so-called tangibles until you get off your behind and be proactive in the process. Look, man, we had our sister on the show yesterday, said, and she's still involved, Suzette, with a 35-year lawsuit that she brought against the state of Connecticut. If that's not consistency, if that's not, staying focused, commitment, and let me just tell us, we got to take a quick pause, but that is one of the big enemies of this country. There's fear, but do you know what else is a big deterrent in our culture? It is our attention. Our attention is pulled in so many different ways. We can't focus, we can't commit. And I ain't talking about your relationships. I'm talking about in understanding things. We cannot commit. Now, F YouTube, you posted something. You said something, and I'm gonna take this pause. You said, throw your hands up, build our own. Here's my take on that. Because I've been hearing Black folks, from Pan-Africanists to nationalists to all types of Black folks, say we should build our own. And I agree. But here's the thing. How are you going to build your own if you don't understand how a system works? There are parts of this system that are worked in our favor and they don't work in our favor. We have to be system thinkers to understand that, okay, what works and what doesn't work, what has helped us get forward, what hasn't helped us get forward. If we're talking about seriously building our own, because that becomes this rhetoric, this empty rhetoric that we just throw out there and be like, see, if we just had our own, but do you know how to establish a bank? Do you know how to get your bank registered with the FDIC? Do you know how to open up a hospital and all the regulations that's required? Do we even know how to open up a school? And do we have that conversation? Do we know how to create a political party? But we have to look at, okay, what's already in existence to understand, to take the best from that and then start to apply it to create a new reality for ourselves. But it's going to require us to do a lot of work. As my brother said, Brian said, we got to put in that work. Folks, we got to take another quick pause. When we come back, let's continue the conversation on the other side. And you can, of course, hear from you. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sister, Suzette Speaks, as we're talking about Super Tuesday and so much more, because Suzette got just her belly full of fire today. She's just full of fire, but I love it. I love it, and I understand it. And I think yesterday did something for us. It did something for me, at least, and I'm hearing it, and I think it did something for you too, Suzette, where it kind of like, you know, on a camera where you could focus and you get it kind of just like keyed us in on a focus on like, this is real. Like, we got to accept the fact that Donald Trump is going to be the nominee for the Republicans. We got to accept the fact that Joe Biden is going to be the nominee for the Democrats, right? Okay, so this is real. So that's already out. That's already taken care of. But then you got to look at, okay, we're 8 months away from this national election. What's at stake? We're looking at some of these Senate races. We're looking at some of these gubernatorial races and all of these things, right? Like, we have to kind of get back into a space of seeing things how they are, not what we wish them to be. And that's what Super Tuesday did for me. And I think that's what it's done for you, because that's why your urgency and the fervor that I hear in your energy and the passion I hear in your voice is like, look, we don't have a lot of time to be messing around. And it's not just about this election. It really isn't just about the personalities of a Joe Biden or Donald Trump. And I want folks to really understand that. It's not about personality. It's about policy and principles, right? It's about those things that we say that are important to us as Black people in this country. And then, as we say, as Americans in this country, what's really important. And the thing that I think that our culture often gets mixed up is, you said it best. You talked about style versus substance. Like, we love the shiny stuff, but we don't love the down and dirty, roll your sleeves up, get to work type of stuff, right? Because we are somewhat entitled. I think to a degree, we're somewhat entitled. We have been so comfortable and complacent that this is a new place to find us, that we do have an individual on the ballot that is a threat to our understanding of law and order, a threat to rule of law, a threat to what we understand this system is stand for. And then you also have forces within this country where we are seeing it from state to state, city to city, where there are forces that want to restrict and in some cases stop the evolution, the growth, the pervasiveness of civil rights in this country. So we have all types of things coming at us. And I think it's just it's disturbing to us. I think it knocks us off of our box a little bit. Like, people are in a state of shock and amazement. Like, is this really happening?
Yeah, and it's playing in our face, Farajii, and I agree with everything you said. I think for me, it woke me up that we used to have the courts as a stopgap, but for this particular election cycle, we're not seeing that. Now, I will say, for example, here in Florida, you know how Ron DeSantis wanted to defund and prohibit all diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. I'm talking about from the BSU to the offices of diversities and inclusions and training and workforce training. Well, we did have a ruling recently about prohibiting any DEI training from going forth. We had an appeals court just say that is a violation, sir, of that company's First Amendment right, to be able to train people in diversity and how to be a more inclusive workforce. You, the government, thank you, cannot tell us what we can and cannot say as a matter of violating our freedom of speech. So we do have some shining lights, but again, I just keep looking around. I'm like, if it doesn't get stopped in the court of law, the people are the big stopgap, right? To show up not only at the polls, but if you need to knock on somebody's office or come with your friends and carry a few signs and sit in the back of the meetings. That stuff, as you say, the roll up your sleeve stuff is more important now than ever. Because again, as you stated, there is a sense of complacency that, oh, people are going to do the right thing. But we've learned that when nobody is, watching the hen house, the fox play and get as much as they can for they folk and run out that thing, and then you be like, where did they just go with all the they left because nobody was watching. We are the watchmen. That's one thing. I had my program celebrating 10 Black men last week. I called them, these are the watchmen. When we are going to work and home and trying to make ends meet and taking care of our families, they not only do that, they do it for us as well. They go protest in Tallahassee's Capitol. They stand up and file the lawsuits. They do it for us. And that sense of, communal empowerment, right, is something that we have to reinvigorate and tap back into, because that's what it's going to take. This one and done, I'll vote, but I ain't trying to do too much.
Hey, that's all. That's dead. That's dead.
In our face. And again, it's not based on any kind of racial demographic or things like this. We're looking at policy. There are folks of all races and on every side, but we want like-minded people, as you say, that are expansive of the American dream, right? Not exclusionary. It shouldn't be for certain people and not others. It is for all of us to enjoy. We all pay taxes. As we talk about building our own, you still got to submit to the law of the land. You still got to pay the taxes that go to the federal government that get redistributed on your behalf.
That's real.
You might as well pay attention to where it's going and what it should be used for. These things are kind of, evolving, but I think we do have an appetite in our community that is now saying, whoa, what can I do? That is the most important thing. If we don't get anything else out, we need to really reevaluate how much are we doing, each and every one of us, not relying on the electeds, but what are we doing? When have I hosted an open house to talk about issues and political issues on a Sunday afternoon at my house? Or where have I had the opportunity to do, whatever, a voter drive, an outreach, have a pizza day, pull up a bullhorn and a sign and outside of a skating rink. There's so many ways we can have, what is deemed political action that is not necessarily a vote, right? Dialogue among us as citizens that hope opens up, someone else's eyes to what they are not participating in and how it is having an impact on their lives, because those same laws is going to affect how you go to college, or if you get into college, if there's no more diversity inclusion programs at the college that you attend, right? The tax dollars that are going to those public schools, how many of those seats are being filled with Black and brown faces, right? Because we know that is a determinant of future success. And those are state funded institutions. And you're telling me the dollars can't be used for what I believe in as far as policy, right? So I see some pushback. I want to also, Farajii, if we could touch on the couple of races. I've been saying this in the chat. That's some great, there's Democratic energy too. Looking at Texas, Colin Allred, former football player, 3-time United States rep. He's going now. He won the 50% in his race for Texas Senate, and he will be going against Ted Cruz. He unseated when he first went into the United States House, well-known incumbent Jeff Sessions, and the amount of money he's raised and him coming out of this primary, 50% or more. Now he's going, he doesn't have to have a runoff. He goes straight to the competition against Ted Cruz is a big deal.
Let me ask you, what do you, What's the possibility of Colin Allred beating Ted Cruz? I mean, we already know what Ted Cruz is about. We know what he represents. We know how he moves. What you think? You think Texas is ready for a different senator, a different voice in the Congress?
That's gonna sound like a record if people show up. You got to remember, there's a lot of transplants into Texas now. When you go into their large metropolitan areas, the Houstons, etc., there's a lot of blue in a big red state. These larger cities are very blue because they have a lot of, like I said, people who are moving from other states. Remember, everybody said go to Houston because it's so cheap there, even though it's getting much more expensive. And there are a lot of other pockets where there's a strong Democratic mayors and others who have been elected. So I think it will go. I haven't looked at since this win yesterday what exit polls are saying, but looking at how he handily beat the other, I think it was quite a few. I think it was top 3, but they were pretty popular too. There are names that I recognize: Gutierrez, another U.S. rep, and others. The fact that he came out of there 50 plus, there's some strength in his campaign that I think is going to give Mr. Cruz a run for his money. Remember, Ted Cruz is not unscathed. He has his, even among his problems. Would you say exactly, like he's been doing a dance with the MAGA base for a while, and but it's going to be an interesting race to watch. Congratulations to Colin Allred. Also in California, we just
hold on. Let's do this. We got to take another quick pause. So let's take a quick pause. When we come back, let's look at the state of California. And I'm glad, Suzette, you're bringing up California because I do have a question about Representative Barbara Lee in the state of California. But let's continue the conversation on the other side. Also, we're going to try to see if we can get Suzette's take on what's happening down in Miami Beach, as there's some great concern about spring breakers and how the city of Miami Beach is saying we're breaking up. Stay with us. Those conversations continue on the other side here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by our sister, Suzette Speaks, one of our great contributors here on the network. We're talking, of course, politics, talking about Super Tuesday and so much more. And folks are just coming into the chat. We got a lot of new watchers in the chat today, Suzette. So big shout out to all of the new watchers and folks that are taking time out your busy schedules to join us and to watch us and to be a part of the conversation. There it is right there. Look, let me just throw this out there. As Suzette has been talking about it, we've been talking about it. Look, if you come into the chat and you ask a question like, oh, what is the Democrats doing for black people? Go to whitehouse.gov, man. Go to Whitehouse. I'm serious. Just go to the whitehouse.gov website. Go to the Democratic National Committee website. Go there and let you do some work. Read, man. Like now we're taking class. We've been on the show for 2 years. We've been blessed to have the show for 2 years. Now we're in an advanced level here at this point, right? This is Super Tuesday just happened. We're 8 months from an election. Hey, if you're asking questions like that, you need to go and read and do some research. This is not to throw shade on anybody, but I do encourage us to become much more empowered on our own. Don't have those conversations and you don't get the actual facts of the situation. And big shout out to all of the crew who are always asking, where do you get your facts from? Because the crew is asking now, like, wait, you're gonna have to add some credence to this comment that you just made. So go to whitehouse.gov, check out all the latest about the Biden administration. This is not even about trying to one up somebody. I just want y'all to be informed.
ABC News. There's plenty of sources. Yeah.
Plenty of sources. And of course, support black media. So that way, when we have these conversations, watch Rolling Martin Unfiltered. Right. Come on, man. Like this too much. This
every
too much.
Night, 6 p.m.
Watch Karen Hunter's show. Like, I don't care. Like, watch Dr. Carr's show. I mean, watch these shows to learn as much as you can about this. Now, let me just throw this out here. Because Corinna said something, our great sister Corinna. She said something, and I think that is important as we have this conversation. She said, you may choose not to participate in an election, but you will have no choice but to participate in the consequences.
Hello, the result is going to impact you. So be ready for that part. I'm not, choice is a choice. That's what people say, right? No decision is a decision. So don't forget that part, because there are people who are making it their duty to go make sure their voice and their positions are heard. So if you're not doing that, somebody else is, and you are going to feel that consequence. Great consequence. Great point.
All right, now, Suzette, let's talk about the state of California. Representative Adam Schiff has been the one to advance to the California Senate race. He's going up against Republican Steve Garvey, who was a former baseball player. And this is a race that was that many people were kind of looking forward to because of the passing of Senator Dianne Feinstein and leaving that seat open. So it opened up the conversation even before she passed away, and there was talk of her possibly stepping down. Folks started to kind of get their campaigns ramped up. Now, Mr. Schiff, he was in a race with Miss Katie Porter, Representatives Katie Porter and Representative Barbara Lee out of Oakland, the Black progressive who is a progressive icon. She's been in Congress for since 1998 as a huge voice, a progressive icon, and she once served as the leader of the Congressional Black Caucus. Now, this has been an interesting race, and I wanted to kind of get your take on it because she didn't advance to November's election. So I'm wondering what her future is going to look like as an individual, and what does this say about, I would say, can we say old guard Black leadership in some ways? I don't want to be disrespectful.
I wouldn't go as far. I wouldn't, only because, like I said, how people make these rules, all of a sudden, the elections according to the Constitution are set by the states, right? Yeah. How one votes is not how the other one votes, right? We talk about patchwork. Well, there are things that were intended to be held to be done in that patchwork, right? We have to remember the states are the laboratories for democracy. How they propose new policy, et cetera, is oftentimes used at the federal level once they start seeing, wow, the healthcare policy written by Mitt Romney was what was modeled after, what we know as Obamacare. There are policies that are tried in California and other places that people will look at as like, wow, look how it's working on that in that state, and they can apply it to the larger the union. So in this case, how this election was run was a key. I don't think it was a rebuke of Barbara Lee or anybody else. This was a clash of titans. All these people in this race have the track record and the support to rightfully think, this is my time, right? But all of them at once was kind of an overload of the system because of how this election worked. This was called a jungle primary. What does that mean? Usually we see primaries set up by the states where one party picks a winner and then faces the other party's winner. In a jungle primary, no matter who's in the race, whether they're Democrat or Republican or any other party, the top two, period, go against each other in the general election. So what was so skillful by Mr. Adam Schiff is that during his commercials, he spent a ton of money, a couple mil on commercials. He highlighted the Republican who didn't spend almost any money as his main threat. If you want a person to stand up for you, vote for me. I will make sure Mr. Garvey doesn't go down this road or doesn't stand on this policy. I will fight him. I will fight him. So what was he doing? That's why I say a lot of this is conditioning us how to think. He is making the electorate believe, oh, it's only a two-person race now anyway. It's me and him. So if people didn't agree with Mr. Schiff, I think the impact of his PR campaign put the Republican side or keyed the Republican side into this man. So he kind of got his other wonderfully talented Democrats kind of out the way by how he presented in his own campaign ads that the race was rightfully between him and now his competitor, the Republican. If you look at that California map, all the outsides of California's beautiful shape, blue, and that core in the middle went for his now opponent. So in a jungle primary, it makes a big difference. It's just getting out of it. The top two, no matter what party they are, it could have been two Democrats. So that was different and unique to California, and it benefited Mr. Schiff because he had the war chest. He had more money. So I wouldn't say it's a rebuke of Barbara Lee or anybody else, Katie Porter, all of those who were in that race. It was just they were outspent. So I think she still has a bright future.
She still got a bright future, and it made me think about, because of her relationship and affiliation with the CBC, how do you think that the CBC is going to move forward from not just from that particular race, but from all the races over Super Tuesday? What's the best course of action? Because, we don't hear from the CBC quite as much until there's something major happens. And it makes me think about, like, even going into the presidential election, I'm thinking now is the time for the CBC to start using or creating a pipeline to get some new senators in places across this country. Now's the time to say, okay, now we know how this presidential campaign is set up. We know how Super Tuesday is looking. We know what the landscape is. Let's start to get some new and fresh talent to come through our pipeline. So that way in 2 years, in 2026, we can be better. We can be better served. And then, of course, setting up for 2028 presidential election. Do you foresee that possibly happening or having those conversations even happen?
I am on the CBC listserv, so I see a lot of what they do. From my experience of the CBC, they focus a lot more on policy and proposing legislation and different laws at the federal level that are going to move issues that affect Black folks forward. So to me, they're always putting out stuff. At least I'm receiving it. But if you're not in tune to them or you're not following them on, social media, or like I said, signed up for their listserv, you can go to the CBC website. Anybody who's interested in seeing what they're doing, they have policy seminars and there's Zoom sessions all the time. Sign up for this, sign up for that. I'm getting that all the time. So I do believe they stay active. Maybe they're not telling us or it's not getting to the general public as to what they're doing and what they're standing on. But that is a year-round organization that, to me, again, is very policy-driven. I'm not sure, and I wouldn't want to speak to it as far as their role at seeding candidates. I know parties state by state are responsible for looking for recruiting candidates up and down the ballot that, again, support the issues that the party in general supports and getting them trained up. You have, I know, for example, here in Florida, the Democratic Party has like a boot camp. If you decide to run and you need to pull into, resources, how do I do it? How do I set up my account? How do I, make sure I'm filing with the state on time, et cetera, et cetera. I've seen that more in the state party apparatus as opposed to the CBC. I don't know how much they're doing as far as recruiting qualified Black candidates. Maybe they are. I'm not aware of it. Not that the information that I've seen distributed kind of highlights. I see them more as like a policy initiating and advocacy group. They are saying Black mental health, Black maternal health. These are the issues. Here's a possible way we at the federal level can propose, viable legislation. Let's put it out there. We've written a bill. Where's everybody at on it? Tell us, Senate, what you think. Tell us, other House members, what you think. Can you help us, give and take on what this issue is? This is what I've seen. But they should be, I think individual members should be looking down the line as we're looking at folks who are maturing into their 70s, into their 80s, and holding into office until they're passing. Dianne Feinstein and others. She's not in CBC. Rest in peace, Ms. Feinstein. But you get what I'm saying? Like, we should be. I don't know what we're afraid of, because people are holding on to these offices. If they're effective and if people want them, that's one thing. But I do think there has to be a lot more. And I'm not sure if they have a roadmap of how they're doing it. This kind of building up of the next generation. I agree with you fully that should be something that they're focused on.
Absolutely. Rick, you said we should use less acronyms for those who may not be informed. CBC means Congressional Black Caucus. So that is the group of Black Congress people that helps to determine some of the big interests or some of the policy interests for Black America. They are designed to think exclusively and specifically about Black America. So again, check them out on the website. We got to take another quick pause when we come forward. Let's get some take from Suzette about the State of the Union, and if we can squeeze in possibly get it. And we're going to talk about Miami Beach. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, you're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sister, Suzette Speaks. All right, Suzette, we know that the president is going to be giving his third State of the Union address tomorrow night, Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time. What do you expect the president to say to kind of get people in this space of being united? This has always been what the president had. This is part of his, I would say, this is a running theme for his campaign and for all of his public speeches for us to be on the same page. So would you expect anything different that he's going to speak on?
No, I think it's an important speech coming after Super Tuesday and the numbers that we just discussed. I do think the biggest complaint I have is the breaking it down to the average Jane or Joe and the American public, how much President Biden has accomplished and how it impacts individuals, right? When we talk about it here, we kind of harp on the same things when it comes to, prescription drugs and when it comes to the infrastructure bill. But when you say infrastructure bill, it's very hard sometimes for people who are not, again, in tune, maybe, politically more novices and don't pay attention all the time or don't, consume as much news as we do. There has to be the kitchen table bridging of why I did what I did, how powerful and impactful the legislation that he's been able to pass back to back major bills over his term, and how it impacts the persons that are, feeling a little shaky. Like I said, until housing prices kind of and rental prices, people feel a little bit more certain about those. And of course, food. It is hard to explain that this is one of the strongest economies, one of the lowest unemployment levels, especially for Black people. Like I said, inflation has gone down tremendously, but we still feel this haze. People are still kind of scared, a little bit uncertain. So I think he has to work on addressing that in layman's terms, not in bills called, with the names of infrastructure, et cetera. Like we were just told, CBC doesn't mean anything to anybody, not to some people. We have to break it down. I'm hoping to hear a little bit more of a broke down vision, and he should take some time to explain how much change he has been able to bring to the federal government through his passing of bipartisan bills. We haven't seen these type of like landmark spending, we call it legislation, right? It's how the federal government will be spending money for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and how it has basically been given to the states and will trickle down, but will come down to the people through hopefully their governors accepting it, and then the local governments tapping into it as well. And that's how it kind of gets redistributed. Their tax dollars go back to the regular people. So I think the communication gap is always what I'm looking for. He has to have a little vigor. Come on, Mr. Biden. Come on, Uncle Joe. I know, again, we got to accept Joe. I think the theme they're saying is like, let Joe be Joe. Joe is not Joe from 20 years ago, but he has still put a lot of accomplishments under his belt for the time that he's been in office. So he's still very effective, including the people who are working around him. But I do think breaking down some of these economic issues, I think that's the one piece that people, even though the economy in the numbers by the books, by economist standards, is doing amazing. And the country has one of the strongest economies right now in the world, but people still feel a little bit shaky because they dollar not going as far. But I think he has to break through on some of those issues, and of course has to address some of the major issues like Gaza and others that have become, I think, lightning rod issues for some members specifically of the the Democrat inside the Democratic tent.
So I think that if folks want to learn more about it, I think they should listen. I think that everybody should tune in, hear what the president has to say, and then we can have a conversation about it afterwards. But the State of the Union is designed to give us a vision of what the president, his overall vision for the country moving forward. And it's going to be interesting to say the least. And as some people are saying, Suzette, that this might be one of his most important speeches of his political career. That's how serious it really is. So we will have to see how he handles the big moment tomorrow night. Again, folks, the president will be addressing the country tomorrow night, Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Want to get your final take on this conversation about what's going on in your neck of the woods with Miami Beach.
They said, y'all stop bringing that old ghetto stuff down in Miami Beach. Listen, it's what's not being said between the lines that's making people, a little uncomfortable. Who are we talking about here? Well, Mayor Steve Miner and this campaign that they rolled out earlier this week has raised eyebrows across the internets to say they got young people staged on the beach like, we're breaking up with you. It's not us, it's you. Stop coming out here. Stop, breaking the laws, and we don't want you anymore, which I've never heard. This might be one of the first times a global destination is running ads to tell people not to come. Instead of to come. And it's like, well, who are y'all really talking to? They're going to be raising parking prices. Several garages, we've been warned, $100 a day. That alone is going to keep some people from coming. And they're going to be, locking it down as far as policing and security. But folks are wondering, what is the undertone and who are they actually directing?
Who are they talking to? Are they talking to black college students, or are they talking to white college students? Who are they really talking to?
That's what I'd be wondering, because they say spring break, but the people don't look like. I don't know.
The grown ass men and grown ass women thinking it's Freaknik down in Miami.
Exactly. It's not. I don't know if it's only a college crowd at this point, but seriously speaking, there's been a lot of bad behavior, right? Shootings. It's dangerous. I was like, goodness gracious. We try to avoid this area at all costs during the spring break season for those 2-3 weeks, because we know it's mayhem. It's traffic across the bridge. You can't get in. You can't get out. And people lose their minds. And I'm not going to blame nobody. I've seen it on the internet quoting, the folks from up north are ruining it for everybody. And they come down and they want to act crazy and not follow the rules. I don't know specifically. I'm not calling out nobody, certain states or anything like that. But the bigger issue on a serious note was, is this being directed towards the Black and brown people that are coming to Miami Beach? Is it a problem now that we see a lot more folks of color who are a part of these crowds? And again, not saying that they're the core or the sources primarily of issues, but then folks are, we're raising the question. And I reached out to, I didn't know Miami Beach had a Black advisory board. I just met the chair of that. And I was trying to get a quote from him for the show. Like, what do you think about it? He's like, I don't want to get anything political. I don't want to. I'm like, but aren't you supposed to be protecting the Black, residents and their interests? But okay, you don't want me to quote you on the show. Okay, fine. But there is a Black advisory board, I think, for the folks who live in the city. But I don't understand. Money is money. And folks who've always seen, this as a premier spring break destination and the business community. I'm just shocked that this was approved by them. So we'll see how this all pans out this spring break that's coming up. Easter will be, here in a few weeks and other things are happening. But it's a very strange, unique proposition that people don't want you to come here to Miami Beach.
I mean, I get it. I'm gonna be honest with you. I get it, right? Like you can't come on, y'all. Come on. Let's keep this thing real. You cannot visit any place, right? Whether it's Miami or LA or whatever. You can't visit no place, tear up the place, commit violence, and then get mad if that jurisdiction start putting some restrictions on, and then telling you in an ad campaign, hey, we don't need your business. Now, I know business owners are saying, look, this is going to take away from the bottom line for us, but you just can't do it. You just can't do it. Like we act like we fight harder for the right to party than we do for other stuff. But you can't do it.
Policy
you can't. You can't tear up the place, man. I'm sorry. Like, now, if it's racially motivated, which some civil rights advocates are saying, especially with the what's the word? The growth of urban beach week. They're talking about that. Now, a lot of Black college students come down there, but again, you can't do that. Like, if you have
adults that are not college students,
and adults, and then that's the crazier part. And then, and here's what we really do got to keep in mind, y'all. Here's what we really do got to keep in mind. You can come out and you can go and have fun and do all of the things that you enjoy to do in a respectable, in a respectful way, in a productive way. But then, if you have crazy ass interactions with the police down there, somebody getting their head busted, somebody getting shot, then we want to call foul, because the police are not going to have one-on-one conversations and to be like, sir, can you please move your car, or can you please stop the yelling and screaming? They're coming in with the mindset, we're going to take control of this space. And you got to understand that if the police are coming in there to enforce the law, that means that anything they do is going to be considered justified.
Be careful. I agree with you. We're a minute over. Our producers are saying.
I get it. We're a minute over.
A lot more we can say about this one, Farajii, for sure.
When does spring break start for
it's about to be the end of this month, to go towards the mid to end of this month. So we're gonna see if people listen, or if they still come down here with the foolishness. We're gonna see. But the message has been sent loud and clear, and we'll see how the public responds.
Let me tell you, y'all gonna have a lot of cars in the pound. Miami Beach about to wrench off in them $100 parking. Watch. There gonna be so many tickets. People will be like, I ain't paying for that. Okay, you ain't got no car, bro. It's like out here in Hollywood. When they come out in Hollywood, you can play them games. Next thing you know, your ticket, you come out that club at 2 or 3 in the morning, your car gone.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see if there's any real shift. But yep, the message is out there. The bat signal has been sent.
Absolutely. All right, my sister Suzette, checking her out. Make sure y'all follow her. Man, she's fantastic. Follow her on all platforms, social media platforms, as Suzette Speaks. She got a dynamic show. She's putting on these great events. We didn't even get a chance to talk to her about the great events. We're going to talk about that next week. But she's doing some work down in South Florida, and we're very, very proud of her. And so make sure y'all follow her. But Suzette Speaks, thank you for being so good for the culture. We truly appreciate you, sir.
I appreciate you always, brother. Thank you, Culture Crew. Always interesting. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you. Big shout out to the brand new Culture Crew. If you enjoyed the show, I hope that you're willing to come back and be a part of the conversation. I hope that you're open to dropping something in the bucket for us as we are embarked upon this great mission of bringing Black news and content like never before. And big shout out to Samuela Harris Lee for adding to the pod. Thank you so much, Samuela, for being another great donor and a great supporter of the work that we're doing here on the Black Star Network. She's coming in at a level 1 Bring the Funk fan club member. So thank you so much for that support. But folks, go to our website today at Blackstar Network, blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app, follow us on social media, and we truly appreciate y'all for your ongoing support and watching us each and every day. That's going to do it for me, folks. Also, follow me on social media. You can find me at The Real Farajii on Instagram, at Farajii on the X platform, at Farajii Muhammad on Facebook, and I would love to connect with each and every one of you. Man, crew, y'all were jamming today. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the great insight and the analysis and all the great comments that y'all have brought to the conversation. Thank you. All right, stay tuned. Up next, 6 p.m. Eastern Time is Big Brother Roland Martin with Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you soon. Have a great evening. Peace.